Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Landsman. I'm the board chair for OCHN, and this is our general board meeting for the month of May. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to give us another minute just to make sure that we get folks online, don't have any issues, who are watching from the distance, as well as making sure the rest of our board members get to their seats. So at 6:02, we'll get started. Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, May 17th. This is the general board meeting for OCHN. And at this point, we'll start the meeting to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so we'll stand and do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For that, the next item on the agenda is the roll call, if you would, Sheila.
Mr. Young.
Here.
Mr. Furman.
Present.
Dr. Hans. Ms. Newman.
Here.
Ms. Namie Dyer. Here. Mr. Cowan. Ms. Root. Here. Dr. Taub. Ms. May. Here. Ms. Woodward.
Here.
Mr. Torres.
Here.
Mr. Landsman.
Here. Thank you. And please note for the record that Dr. Taub reached out to me, and he will have an excused absence. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the board meeting agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, so the motion made by Ms. Newman, seconded by Mr. Torres. Any discussion? All those in favor of the board meeting agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public comment. And from what I understand, we have at least one person that would like to make public comment tonight. It's one of two times that we have that opportunity. Mr. Cummins? Thank you. And public comments are limited to 5 minutes each.
Is it working?
Yes.
I guess so. Okay, Fred Cummins. I'm president of the Alliance for Mentally Ill of Oakland County. I have two things I'd like to talk with you about this morning. Hopefully you'll have or will have the handouts for these cities. I'm going to keep my comments now brief and come back to you at the end of the meeting for the second public comment. That's the sheet about Janapi Patel. She's the daughter of Cheryl Patel, who many of you know. She's been a very active advocate for many years. She's been on the Recipient Rights Committee. She's been on the Common Ground Advisory Committee and a number of other things. So you've probably run into her one way or another over the years. But in particular, she's been our helpline answerer for a number of years, and helps people find ways to resolve their, or hopefully resolve their mental health concerns. Unfortunately, Cheryl had a head injury a couple months ago, and she has been in rehab, is still in rehab, not for a mental condition, but for a physical impairment resulting from the head injury. So she's still in rehab, but hopefully she'll be back soon and be complaining to you again. So I'll stick with that for now. I do want to talk to you. The other topic has to do with last time I talked to you about a book called Healing from Thomas Insel. This time I want to talk to you about a book called Trigger Points. These are actually very complementary topics and should be of importance to you. So I'll be back.
Oh, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wanted to make public comment here in the audience or online?
We do not have any additional public comment in the online form
All right.
for this section of it.
Okay. And again, we have a second opportunity at the end of this meeting. I'd like the record to show that both Mr. Cowan and Dr. Hans are here. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is for a topic with our Chief Compliance Officer, Bernard Hooper, regarding our board confidential files.
Thank you, Mr. Landsman. Good afternoon, everyone. Wanted to speak to you regarding a file marked confidential that you may find upon your podium when you come in. Those files typically contain information from the staff of OCHN regarding public comment that is received during various meetings. Oftentimes that public comment is received from an individual or regarding an individual, and information regarding that individual or the response to the public comment is confidential. Therefore, you are given that information in that file. That file will be given to you at the beginning of the meeting. At the end of the meeting, it is collected. We ask you that you leave the confidential information in the file, and it will be disposed by OCHN as appropriate. If you have any questions, feel free to ask Sheila regarding how the process is actually done. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Hooper from the board? All right, thank you very much for your help. All right, the next item on the agenda is board member recognition, and I'm glad that this gentleman's online tonight. It's been a while since I've seen him when he snuck away from the greater Detroit area in Michigan to head to California. And I'm talking about Mr. Lindemeyer, who is a board member, part of the selection committee to help find Dana to replace our vacancy. And Eric's done a fine job in providing us navigation, if you will, a strong ethics and moral compass and things like that. So I'm glad that he's been on our board. I was disappointed when he put in for resignation and moved westward ho, but he had the calling to go west, so he did. What I'd like to be able to do tonight, and I would have loved to be able to do this in person, but you're still out west, aren't you, Eric?
I am, unfortunately. Maybe someday I'll be back in Michigan.
Yeah. Well, I would have liked to present you in person with this this distinguished honor, this plaque presented to you as being a member of our board for your hard work, your efforts in helping those who need a voice, for those with issues in substance use, those that have other areas of need. And I really appreciated you stepping up and being so active and so involved in our board and our actions in OCHN. And I hope that that is an example for a lot of our new board members to know to be active, to be involved with advocacy, to be involved with events, to be involved with the people we serve. So I just wanted to, I don't know if you can see it very well with the camera, but it's a glass item with your name on it and OCHN on it. So if you'd like to make any comment, that would be wonderful. And in order,
I would, Jonathan. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So I want to thank Dana and the entire board and the staff at OCHN for remembering me. You know, a lot of times when we leave a community or leave a organization, we never know if we're remembered or what our service was. You know, did we provide an service in a way that that people would remember? And by recognizing my service, it really tells me a lot about the organization that I found true the first day that I joined the board. For those of you that don't know, right around the time I joined the board, my father had passed away. And OCHN was one of the first to reach out to me with their condolences. And so I felt like I joined a family immediately when I joined the board. And I've learned so much from each and every board member and the staff members that I worked with while I was on the board, that actually leaving the board was one of the hardest things that I did in my transition out to California, because the service that the OCHN provides to the community is so invaluable. And it's one of the greatest joys that I had in giving back to the community, was being able to serve as a board member. I hope I did it with honor and with integrity and with the recipients in mind at all times. So thank you very much for recognizing me. I'm very glad that I'm not forgotten. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
You're welcome. And by the way, your 5 minutes are up. I'm just kidding. Dana, did you want to say something too?
I have a statement to read about Mr. Lindemeyer, but I wanted to thank you for your service to this community, not just OCHN as a board member, but to this community. And I actually wanted to read some of the highlights that we have of you and your contribution to this board. So Eric Lindemeyer is an active member of the substance use recovery community. As a person in recovery for more than 10 years and an active volunteer and advocate for Brian's Hope, he brought valuable understanding and experience to alcohol and other drug misuse initiatives to OCHN's board of directors. In his role as a board member, Mr. Lindemeyer served as a liaison to the OCHN Oversight Policy Board, which governs for the delivery of prevention and treatment substance use services at OCHN. Mr. Lindemeyer holds a bachelor's degree of science from Michigan State University, go green, Mr. Lindemeyer, and has over 20 years of labor relations experience. He has served as the community service director of the Metropolitan Detroit AFL-CIO for more than 8 years, providing education to the union members regarding substance use or misuse, suicide, domestic violence, and mental health. He's also been involved in legislative advocacy, work for more than 30 years and a lifetime member of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People. Mr. Lindemeyer is a strong supporter of increased community education regarding opiate addiction concerns and provided valuable insight during his tenure at the Oakland Community Health Network Board. So I'll just say this, and with the recent things that have occurred in this country, I know if you were sitting here today, you definitely would have brought it to our attention and made us take a moment to reflect and think about those families that have been impacted. So I definitely miss you and your contributions to this board, but I'm sure you're doing amazing things in California. So thank you for your service.
Thank you, Dana.
All right, and Eric, thank you again.
John, can I say something real quick?
Please.
Just, just wanted to make some comments. And Eric, I've known Eric for probably going on a decade. So, when he came to our board, I knew he'd be an asset in regard to his experience in labor relations, unions, and substance use, even more importantly, in bringing that aspect to our board. You know, I think we all saw it worked with him. Eric's very passionate. He's energetic. He stands up for what he believes in. And Eric and I have been friends for 10 years going on. But we have had our fair share of debates and arguments and back and forth. And but I love that about Eric. He never backs down from what he believes in. He's open to listening. And he's always, throwing himself right into something to make his full contribution. So, again, Eric, I think it was well said before me, what was stated, that you really added a lot of value to this board, so thank you. And I'll be talking to you still, though, so we'll still be in contact. But I'm proud of the work that you did here, Eric, so thank you for what you did.
Thanks,
Are there
John
any
Paul.
are there any other board members that would like to make comment? Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Cowan.
Eric, I probably served with you the least in terms of your tenure. Just a handful of months, but sat next to you, and I was so impressed with your passion and your story, your struggles and triumphs, and what you brought to the table. And I will tell you, you left an impression on me. So it was a positive one, very positive. So good luck and Godspeed in your future endeavors, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Dennis.
Yes, Ms. Newman.
I was surprised to hear you say you didn't know that you were going to be remembered. You really made an impact on this board, and I, for one, was brokenhearted when you made the announcement that you were going away. And I still miss you, and it would be nice if you could come back, but still, the time that you were here, the stance that you took, the sensitivity that you approach topics with, I'll never forget it, and I really appreciated you as a board member and as a friend. Good luck in California.
Thank you, Malakaya.
Any other board members? All right. Again, thank you, Eric. And because you are now part of the public and off our board, you can join in any of our meetings, make public comment at the beginning or at the end of the meeting, as you know.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is probably my favorite item on every general board meeting. It's the Stories that Inspire Hope, because it brings us as a board and staff and others closer to those that we serve. So tonight, that story is being presented by Malakaya, by Ms. Newman, our board member. So if you would, Malakaya.
Well, I'm just introducing two, and the other two are going to stay and present. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I was a little disappointed that they put it down that I was the one that was doing the stories, because I don't come alone. I'm the team supervisor for the CNS Healthcare Anti-Stigma Program. It's an honor to be here. My name, as you all know, is Malakaya Newman, and the rest of my team consists of
Andrew Parrish, Certified Peer Support Specialist.
Cheryl LaFleur, Certified Peer Support Specialist. Lynette Johnson, Certified Peer Support
George and Lynette are new to our team. They're not going to be presenting tonight, but I wanted them to be acknowledged. You can have a seat. To be a part of the anti-stigma team, you have to have lived experience. That was the cornerstone of this program when it was conceived in 2005. It was a one-year grant-funded program funded by SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration out of Washington, D.C., and what was then Oakland County Community Mental Health Authority. The county was so impressed with the work that we did that first year that they extended our grant for another year, 2 years, and then they made us a permanent part of CNS's programming. So as long as there's a CNS healthcare, there will be an anti-stigma program. We're nationally recognized. We have several awards under our belt. And right now we're funded in part by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services along with Oakland Community Health Network. So now we want to share our recovery stories. Recovery is possible for those of us who have been diagnosed with a mental health condition or a substance use disorder, and we are living proof. So we want to share our recovery stories with you.
I want to make sure I have this mic up. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Cheryl. In her journey to womanhood, she encountered and overcame many challenges to become who she is today. Here's my story. As a child, I experienced trauma. I witnessed physical and emotional abuse almost on a daily basis. I was bullied at school, and there were many nights I cried myself to sleep. As a result, I developed symptoms of anxiety and PTSD. Despite all that, I completed high school, held a whole full-time job, got married, and had children. My symptoms of anxiety and PTSD increased after the birth of my second child. Treatment was not effective at the time. I was unable to care for my children, and eventually my marriage dissolved. Eventually, I sought help in the community mental health system, and my recovery journey began. I wanted my life back. College and employment did not work for me. Something inside me knew that I had a purpose that would explain why I went through all these difficult challenges. Later on, I heard about the peer support profession. I researched and sought employment for 2 years before becoming employed at CNS Healthcare as a certified peer support specialist. This job turned my life around completely. I was the caterpillar that became the cocoon and emerged as a beautiful butterfly. Presently, my confidence has grown, along with the satisfaction of knowing I've inspired so many. My experience, plus working as a certified peer support specialist, helped prepare me for my current role on the anti-stigma team. I'm evolving in my recovery daily. I've come to understand that the symptoms and triggers of past trauma can show up at any time, and I am learning to recognize these symptoms as they occur. I use coping skills such as breathing, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness techniques to help keep me present. In my future, I see myself traveling. Ideally, I'd like to get an RV and spend some time in some of our beautiful states around the country. And I once saw an episode of Oprah where she shared her vacation to Fiji Island. This was so long ago, but I put that on my bucket list That and whale watching. I did go once, did not see a whale, so it's still on there. And I'd like to learn how to play a handpan. I've enjoyed living recovery as a single woman, but still believe in love and relationship. I'd like to find someone to grow old with one day. My experiences have taught me that life never stops teaching, so I will never stop learning. Thank you.
And now a letter to my diagnosis. Dear schizophrenia, you've given me a sense of humor, patience, and more empathy. You've given me more insight into myself and more respect for other people's troubles. You've given me a new outlook on life. Because of you, I think more optimistically, I am more kind, and I look at things more reasonably. I believe I'm more wise, and I think more logically. I'll take care of you, schizophrenia, because I have to take care of me. But I won't put you first. I must come first. Sorry, schizophrenia, I know you're here, but I hardly think about you anymore. Yours angrily, and hopefully that you'll go away someday, Andrew Parrish. Thank you.
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows sadness. It was a constant companion from my late teens on. Disappointments grew like sand shifting through an hourglass. Broken family relationships, and I was told it was all my fault. First marriage at 17. First divorce at 19. It was my baby, my Tracy. She's the only thing that kept me from taking my own life. I went to college. I had a 3.86 GPA and dropped out, never went back. When will I ever see the rainbow after the rain? That's when my quest began, but who could I tell? Who could I trust? Do you see what I see? Do you know what I know? Then came 12-step programs, individual, group therapy, even guided prayer. I make a little progress, 1 step forward and 10 steps back, until a friend told me about a little clinic in Pontiac, and Zoloft saved the day. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I believe I could fly. Whoo! Bipolar disorder. Out of all the mental health challenges, it's one of the easiest ones to treat. And those little blue pills, they made all the difference in the world until I lost a job with benefits, which meant I could no longer go to my doctor or get my medication. I went back to the free clinic, and they no longer service people with brain disorders and didn't tell me where else I could go. So on the verge of yet another breakdown, a friend referred me to CNS. I got new meds and a new place to stay. So that following May, whoo, I feel good. I knew that I would. I felt so good, I stopped taking my medication. And into the toilet I went again. But I thank God I had some caring professionals, doctors, case managers, peers, friends that came alongside, supported me, encouraged me. So now I'm back on meds and back on track. And oh, by the way, would you like to work for CNS? So as you can see, having a mental health challenge, it is not the end of the world. For me, it was only the beginning. Thank you so much for having us. We prepared some what we call stress reliever bags for everyone. We hope you take advantage of it. Not that anybody on this board would ever be stressed, but just in case you need a little something to help you relieve stress, you got coloring book, pencils, a stress ball, a trinket for your fingers, fidget for your fingers, and a journal to write all of those things that you can't say publicly. So thank you so much for having us, and we really appreciate being able to share our stories as a part of May's Mental Health Month. Thank you all so much for being appointed.
Any comments by some of our board members? Adam?
Yes, Cheryl and Andrew and Micaiah, I've worked with you many times over the years with regard to anti-stigma issues, and your presentation is as fresh today now as it ever was, and thank you so much for keeping up the good fight for anti-stigma and seeing people as people first. And again, thank you for the very encouraging presentation tonight.
Thanks, Adam.
That was really inspirational and encouraging. And peer support is being recognized across this entire country. That's part of the accreditation process. They're encouraging all behavioral health programs to have certified peer support specialists, because evidence has shown that people in recovery help other people to recover. It's that installation of hope. So you guys continue doing what you're doing to bust stigmas. And Cheryl, spread your wings, because butterflies do fly. I'm going whale watching next week, so I'll let you know if I see any whales.
Thank you, Yvette.
Other board members?
It was very inspirational to hear all of you tonight. I think there's something to be said about people who have actually been in those shoes, talking to other people who are going through challenges, and I think that what you guys do is awesome. I work in the criminal justice field, and primarily substance use and mental health as it relates to the criminal justice system, and peer recovery coaches have been something we've been bringing in over the years, and no matter what, it always seems like those are the people who become the most important on our team, because the individuals who we're connecting them with will open up to them more. There's more of a trust, and there's more of that understanding and having lived that experience. So I think you all being out there and people hearing you, it's not only making people's lives better, it's saving lives. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, John Paul.
I just want to take a minute and thank all of you, Lynette and George, who just stepped out, but taking those steps to be a peer support, certified peer support specialist, and not just sharing your own story, but working with others to help them move out of their cocoons and chrysalises and take on the world. Lived experience is a challenging thing. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. So I appreciate you guys sharing your stories. All three of you, Micaiah, Andrew, and Cheryl, thank you. I couldn't read my own writing, of course, as usual, which is why writing doesn't help me in my binder. But I think the battle that you guys have in fighting anti-stigma, in trying to stop stigma, is admirable. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all your efforts in telling your stories in the way that you do, because everyone's story is different. So again, thank you guys.
Thank you, Jonathan.
As I said, that is my favorite part of the board meetings. So on to my next section, which is our regular agenda and board reports. And of course, that's not always my favorite, even though I wrote part of it. So for this month, this is my board report for May of 2022. This month, our executive committee met on Wednesday the 4th at 5 p.m. In attendance was our vice chair, Mr. Torres, secretary, Mr. Foreman, our chairs of business ops committee, Ms. Namie Dyer, and of the policy management, Ms. Newman, along with Sheila and Mr. Hooper, our chief compliance officer. Our executive director, Ms. Lazenby, and others were out at CIT training, which is very important. And if you've read the news, that seems to be a topic across the state right now about what more can we do because of the challenges that continue to go on across the country in ways to de-escalate situations. So very key, very critical. So at our meeting, the May agenda is for last week's Committee of the Whole, tonight's board meeting, and next week's Thursday, the 26th, 5 p.m. board study sessions were all confirmed. So I'm looking forward to the board members coming to the study session next week, Thursday. We also had a session regarding the CEO Evaluation Committee for last week, Wednesday the 11th. Ms. Namie Dyer was elected our chair of the committee for this year, and we were looking to make the process more consistent and at the request and working with Dana. We drafted updates to the 360 questionnaire that goes, and it is used to get feedback from the community. We've updated the OCHN board CEO evaluation metrics grid from 27 to 30 questions to make it a little bit better balanced. We've updated the performance bonus and salary grid from 50 to 150 point range. So these are going to be presented to the board for approval, and assuming these changes are approved by legal counsel, they're expected to get tied into the current executive director agreement. So we've been working together collaboratively with Dana to work this out. Now we just have to get legal to stand behind us all. So, upcoming is the CMHA, our community mental health association for the state. The conference is in Traverse City Monday through Wednesday, June 6th through 8th. We'll be looking for delegates to vote on association board and association budget. That's later on in tonight's agenda. And then on Thursday, the 9th, there'll be a CMHA Metro meeting hosted by Detroit Wayne. It is virtual, and again, it's scheduled for Thursday, June 9th. So for those that go up to the conference, please feel free to attend it. And also for those board members who are not going up to the conference, please feel free to join the Metro meeting. It's just another way that we can get together with our fellow brethren on the other two boards in the county here, across the three counties, Macomb and Wayne, as well as ourselves. And then last, a reminder to go to the CMHA site, make your PAC donations, or bring a check in, or mail and bring it into Sheila, or mail it to CMHA PAC at, I have their old address, 526 Walnut, but I'm sure there's a new one on their website because they're moving buildings. I went online and made my donation a few months ago. We cannot compete with the Medicaid managed organizations from a dollar perspective. They will throw hundreds of thousands, maybe $1 million at senators and House reps. But our association does a really good job of lobbying among other areas and other groups that also lobby to support the state senators and reps. So I've heard that our message does resonate better than the MCOs. They may like their money, but they like our message better. Speaking on that topic, on advocacy, so as of this writing, Senator Shirkey's two bills, 597 and 598, which would overturn our public solution, still do not have their votes. And as long as we keep calling and talking to our state senators, they will never get their votes. And they will never be able to terminate our public solution. So keep calling your senators, keep calling your reps. And last, if your board members, if you still have a compulsory training that's outstanding, I urge you to complete that effort. There was no public comment at either the start or at the end of our executive board meeting, so we adjourned at the end of our agenda. And that's my report. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Next would be, any report regarding policy management. Ms. Newman? You're off mic.
After all this time, I should have it down pat. We had a presentation from our own Christine Burke, Director of Communications and Community Outreach, and Ms. Frances Carley, Deputy Director of Strategic Initiatives, talking about the needs assessment. I'm sorry. The survey results from the needs assessment. It was very extensive. It was a good report. We heard that there were more than 200 recipients of services that filled out and returned their questionnaires, which is a record for us. We also had a quarterly report from the Access Department. Oh, give me a minute. Get to my notes. Well, I'm sorry, I can't find it. But we also had a report on access at the Resource and Crisis Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. Very much appreciated. And yes, you were right. I just looked at my notes. 246 persons who served that responded. Amazing. You're right. It's amazing. Business Ops Committee report, Ms. Namie Dyer.
Yes, thank you. So during the May 9th Committee of the Whole meeting, during the business ops portion, we had a few presentations from our Chief Financial Officer, Anya Lyson, where she presented the March monthly trends. Some key points were that eligibility for the year is flattening out. The trend will generally not increase like it did during the pandemic, and we will probably see a decline once the emergency order expires, which is possibly going to happen at the end of the fiscal year. Our net position is currently up, but some key expenses that are up, specifically the provider network, but that was expected and planned for with the addition of multiple providers. There will also be, Anya will be presenting Budget Amendment 2 today, which was moved to, or which we did recommend to be presented at the full board for approval today, but some key points there that Anya will probably reiterate is that there were some changes with the COVID premium pay, specifically that they parsed it out, accounting for some of that being returned due to the restrictions, and that all PIHPs had to send back money last year, and that's probably the expectation for this year as well. And the county provided a fund for the Oxford Tragedy services, specifically to cover co-pays and deductibles for services being used. And then there were also some extra general fund dollars that were provided that will be included in the budget amendment. And then there was also grant money received for COVID-related improvements and supplies, and CCBHC dollars increased. So we will be hearing more in detail about that during the budget amendment proposal. And that's it.
Great, thank you. As I understand it, the Business Ops Committee voted to support the budget amendment. Is that correct?
We voted to move it to today so that we can vote on it.
Right.
So the budget amendment was not approved, but it was.
But you guys supported its movement?
Correct.
Okay. So at this point, I would be moving on to board approval items on budget number A for the budget amendment number 2. And is there a motion that you or anyone from your committee would like to make on having our board approve it?
I move to support Budget Amendment A.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Furman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those, I guess we need a roll call vote, don't we, Sheila?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Dr. Hans?
Yes.
Ms. Newman? Ms. Mamie Dyer? Yes. Mr. Cowan?
Yes.
Ms. Root? Ms. May? Yes. Ms. Woodruff?
Yes.
Mr. Torres?
Yes.
Mr. Landsman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And Ms. Newman, coming out of the committee of the whole meeting with the policy side, I believe your committee voted to move forward support for the needs assessment? You guys didn't vote for moving it forward? Okay.
We went back to it and your committee did vote. If you recall, I can pull up the vote. Okay.
So my question is, do you want to make a motion for our board to approve the needs assessment survey outcomes?
Second.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So motion made by Ms. Newman, seconded by Dr. Hans. Is there any discussion on that item for the needs assessment survey outcomes? If not, let's do a roll call vote on that for approval.
Mr. Torres?
Yes.
Ms. Woodruff?
Yes.
Ms. May? Ms. Root? Mr. Cowan?
Yes.
Ms. Mamie Dyer? Yes. Ms. Newman?
Yes.
Dr. Hans?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Landsman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So next item on the agenda is our consent agenda, which includes board minutes and meeting minute reports. Citizens is along with Citizens Advisory Committee, Committee of the Whole, and SUD Oversight Board notes. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Root. Is there a second?
Second.
Who is that? Oh, John, thank you. Okay, with consent agenda, there's no discussion, so we move to an immediate vote for the consent agenda.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Dr. Hans?
Yes.
Ms. Mamie Dyer? Yes. Ms. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Cowan?
Yes.
Ms. May? Yes. Ms. Root? Yes. Mr. Torres? Yes. Ms. Woodruff?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Landsman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our other business, and tonight that's other business is the selection of CMHA board delegates for the upcoming June conference. We have 5 slots. First slot is covered by our executive director, that's Dana Lazenby, so we have 4 more member slots to vote. That would be for the meeting on June 6th at 5:40 at the conference. And so I'm looking for 4 people that would like to be delegates. It is for the executive committee of the association, along with the approval of the budget. Ms. Newman, would you be interested in being a delegate? Thank you. So I have 3 other slots. Would any of our new members who are attending the conference like to be a delegate?
I will.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Two slots left, and we only have 3 board members going to it. Yvette, you would like to? Thank you. John?
Traveling up at that time. Is it in person or can I call in?
You have to be in person
Yeah,
for it.
I'm going to be
Okay.
pulling
Thank
in.
you. Well, seeing as I'm the last delegate or the last attendee from our board at this point, I will take that last slot then. Okay, turn that in. All right. Is there any other business for other business that any board member wants to bring up? I can ask. It's for two things. One is the slate. That includes the board chair from Detroit Wayne as a VP. I don't remember the other persons on the list. And the other is approving the budget that was assembled by the executive committee about 2 months ago. So my assumption is that we'd be supporting the slates, but you know, you vote your conscience. That's what I would say. Okay.
Can I just reaffirm for the minutes who's all serving as delegates?
Sure. Dale Lazenby, Micaiah Newman, Sarah May, Yvette Woodruff, and Jonathan Landsman.
Thank you.
And I'll pass you the form too. Okay. Next up are board reports. First one would be the bylaw committee report.
We met last May 12th on Thursday, and we reviewed the policies and approved the board bylaws from the board bylaws that have been agreed to by the board thus far, though they have not formally been voted on yet. We did go through about 90% of policy. We are towards the end of finishing that off, and we will have another meeting coming up on May 26th, piggyback on with our study session to finish review of policy, to have everything possibly ready for the June board meeting to formally be voted on, but that is still yet to be determined. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be the Recipient Rights Advisory Committee. Ms. Root?
Our meeting was held here in Troy on May 5th at 4 p.m., and we welcomed our 2 new board members to the committee, Betty and JoJo. I had the opportunity to volunteer as the member to be highlighted during that meeting, which is in alignment with our second goal for this year of getting to know more about each member on the committee. Ms. Suter gave a rights director update, which included information about the difference between mediation and recipient rights. And then from the rights manager update, we learned that 2 new employees are currently being trained, and the department is looking forward to a rights conference that will be held in the fall. In our meeting, we also reviewed policy 20.1, which is about dignity and respect. And we had a really great discussion about the definition of family and the different types of supports that individuals who receive services have. Lastly, a site visit report was given stating that 199 sites have been visited out of 427. And then our next meeting will be Thursday, June 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda would be the Citizens Advisory Committee report from Ms. Namie Dyer.
Thank you. Yes, the CAC met virtually on April 20th at 9:30 a.m. It started off, after roll call, there was a public comment in which we were notified of a program known as the Affordable Connectivity Program for Internet Service, which is a U.S. government program that helps low-income households pay for broadband internet and connected devices. It is an FCC program. Eligible households can receive up to a $30 a month discount on internet service and a discount of up to $100 to purchase a computer or tablet from participating providers. So good program that probably not a lot of people necessarily know about. And for more information, you can visit acpbenefit.org, and that website is also in the CAC minutes that were included in our agenda packet. Christy, and I apologize if I mispronounced her last name, Schmiege, did a presentation on SUD department responsibilities and functions. So she provided a lot of similar information to what she had provided to the board recently about the team working with network providers to deliver a variety of treatment and prevention services. Some of the things that she discussed were the RISE Center, Access, Sober Support Unit, Case Management Services, peer recovery coach services, withdrawal management, residential treatment, recovery housing, outpatient services, medication-assisted treatment, women's specialty services, and SUD health home services. Then Christine Burke provided her communications report. She discussed and thanked everyone for their participation and feedback regarding the needs assessment survey. And she reiterated that there were well over 800 surveys submitted, which is 34% higher than last year. So I think we're just going to keep talking about that because it's just really great to hear about all of that. She talked about May being Mental Health Month and discussed the proclamation that she presented at I believe it was at the COW meeting as well as a number of the different events that are coming up. Then Monica Sanders, the program analyst in utilization management at OCHN, gave an update on the CCBHC, which is the Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinics model, and she just provided an overview to the CAC members. And then Charlotte Rao, the provider network analyst at OCHN, presented information on different providers who are in the recredentialing process, and she solicited feedback on those various providers. And there are a number of them, so again, kind of included in the meeting minutes if people are interested. And then Ms. Lazenby provided her director's report, and that was the meeting.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? All right, on to the SUD Oversight Board policy. Mr. Cowan.
Thank you. We did have a meeting at the end of April. We had not been able to have a meeting in January, so it had been a few months since we were all together. The minutes are in your package. I encourage you to read them for the full, report on the meeting. But just a couple highlights. The MDHHS audit was very favorable with the SUD section, which had 100% compliance, so that was very encouraging to hear. We did get an update on the COVID programs in conjunction with our residential programs. Also, we have a SUD health home that came online April 1st, and then an anticipated start date of October 1 for an opiate health home. And lastly, just on a personal note, County Commissioner Mike Spez, who I've known for a number of years, his daughter is at Oxford High School, and he shared, on a limited basis, some of the things that everybody's been through in the community. But I believe he was very appreciative of all the work that our providers have done in our organization, and he looked forward to that continued cooperation. And it was very compelling to hear it from someone who's lived it, because none of us have lived it, but he's lived it, and his family and all their friends and associates in the greater Oxford community have lived it. So it was very, very good to hear. This organization does good work, and it was good to hear from someone who's using the services and seen it in action to confirm that. But the challenges are still there, and they remain. So that's my report.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is public comment. Okay. Is there anyone? I know, but we'll take it. If there's someone who would like to make public comment, please. Fred, please come on up.
Okay, so I'm back. My glasses, I can read what's got here. Hopefully you have my notes, which might be a little bit difficult to read because I didn't look at them after I took them off the printer. So just a little bit poor. I talked to you last time about this book, Healing Our Path from Mental Illness to Mental Health by Thomas Insel. That is basically a clinical perspective on mental health and foresight, leading on the leading forefront of mental health. And there's a particular emphasis on the importance of therapy, not just medications. In fact, as he talks about it, is therapy first, medications if necessary. And the importance of early intervention. Trigger Points, the second book, is inside the mission to stop mass shootings in America. And this has a quite historical perspective going back many years in terms of the history of mass shootings and understanding of where they come from and how to prevent them. And of course, that's hit close to home recently with the Oxford High School. And again, the importance of therapy and intervention. And the understanding, the insights that have been developed over the years is that there is an opportunity in intervention, as most people have suspected, since we usually hear about what the shooters did or were, or what they were doing before the shooting. And law enforcement has recognized that and tried to develop approaches to intervention. And that's been evolving over years. But it's not just a law enforcement problem, and it shouldn't be. First of all, shooters don't qualify for public mental health services generally because they don't fit the criteria of being homicidal or suicidal or psychiatrically affected. They seem to be normal people until they get to a crisis point. But again, there are signs and symptoms that our people around them see and see that there's a concern, but they don't see that that is it preceding a crisis. So again, law enforcement has developed some practices which are not yet widespread, but they're talking more, getting out more to implementing them. Obviously, they haven't done a complete job because that's still happening. One of the things that was interesting was that they got a rule that they do not want the media talking about the name of the shooter because shooters like to get publicity, and it feeds the systems. And in the reporting that I saw, there was one reporter who said for the recent shooting in where did I say it was? On this weekend, Buffalo. There was one reporter that said the shooter's name, but everybody else avoided that and did not go into a lot of detail of where they were from or who they were. And that's good. They're catching on. The shooters are both adults and children. And ones we're being concerned about recently are children, are basically children. Even the Buffalo shooter was an 18-year-old and had actually known to talk about a school shooting before he reached the shooting at the shopping center. But again, there have been many others going back to Columbine and before that. So early intervention is going to be difficult with adults because a lot of adults do not believe they've got a problem, won't admit they got a problem, and won't submit to treatment. But children are different. Children are children. They have parents. They have people around them who can say, well, you're going to get treatment. And we need to take advantage of that and see that people do get treatment and that we do recognize where there's a problem. So we need to be getting to people, children who need it, give them therapy, And this extends not just to people who may be shooters, but things like bullying and suicide are also consequences of these problems. So there's a much broader problem than shooting. And a lot of children who have a problem that starts in childhood and goes on to the rest of their lives, not because they go shoot people, but because they are disabled. So you're getting ready to tell me my time's up. Well, let me jump to the end. I encourage you to read both these books. They're complementary. One is the clinical perspective, the other is the more social law enforcement perspective and intervention perspective. And as board members, it's important to you to understand these things, because these are on the front end. This is not what we're doing today, it's what we should be doing. And we have an opportunity with the talk about changing the system in Michigan to change the system in the right way and extend the scope. And part of that is CCHBCs, which says you're reaching more people. Part of it is saying we're going to reach people who are not in crisis, and some other changes. But the bill, even the Mary Whiteford bill, is not there yet. It has a lot of improvement. It has some good things, but there's a lot to change. So we need to deal with that.
All right, thank you.
So, again, we need to change things. Please read.
Much appreciated for your public comments.
And you can read the rest of my notes.
And we have them. Thank you. Next on the agenda is our CEO's director's report. Dana, you have the floor.
Thank you. I wanted to start by just recognizing the team, and it's very evident when you hear the board reports that we're making changes and we're impacting this community, which is really why we're all here. And I know we talked a lot about the response to the annual needs assessment, but we cannot not celebrate that, because with 42% increase in responses over the last year's response rate, it really does say that people we serve can be involved in the development and implementation of programs and services. And it goes back to this, without me, you can't design these things unless you include people who are actually receivers of services. So that's really important, and we want to make sure that families and persons served have a voice. So that needs assessment is critical as we develop our strategic plan. And one of the other highlights of the responses is talked about the person served in terms of the direct support professionals and direct care workers. And 80% of those persons served talked about the support of the direct support professionals or direct care workers, which is really critical to their ability to live in the community and live their best lives. So that's an area of highlight, because we want to make sure we keep that as a priority and address the community's needs. Our workforce is in crisis, and so we have to think outside of the box of ways to recruit and retain people to work with us. The other thing that I hear consistently from the board members as well as the community is the area of transportation. So again, our team is really committed to looking at transportation in a new way and really looking at it in a way that we really assess the individual needs of people we serve and how that relates to access to not just services and support, but those social interactions and community activities that we all love to engage in. So that's important as well. And one of those examples is a great example from last night. We had our Parent Mental Health Forum, and I just have to celebrate the team, Christine and Suzanne and the folks in the community that really pulled this off and worked very hard to have. We had 50 people in person, but we had over 537 people virtually attend and participate in this event. So that was phenomenal, and the more we do that kind of activity and do those kind of events in the community in which people are served and receive services, the more we can educate the community about how to ask and get help for mental health and behavioral health services and substance use disorders. And it was a big focus on what we do with schools. And there's a lot of things that are going on in schools, but we have to continue to push for those, that every school has a community-based clinic or a mental health clinic that's available to those students, but also making sure that as the safety net, we have those services and supports when the schools aren't available, and to those families as well. So it was really good to hear those great stories from those families, and a phenomenal group of 4 young ladies got up and spoke. And I can tell you, when I was in high school, I would have never been able to get up and speak as well as those young ladies did. They were inspirational, and they really had the attention of the room. So the other people who were in the room that are mentionable, those 4 young ladies stole the show to me, but Mayor Pontiac, Mayor Grimo was there, Representative Carter was there, Senator Bayer, our own Melchiah Newman, and our own board member Christine Root were there, Pastor Jones, who has a special way of bringing everybody together, Kevin Fisher, President of NAMI, as well as one of the Board of Commissioners' daughters, Powell, actually was one of the 4 young ladies that spoke. So those are the kind of things I want to see us do more and more. So I really do appreciate this board and our ability to reach out to the community, and that's what we're here for. So that's a prime example of that. So I also was going to go into this whole idea of showing you what the vision really looks like when we put it into action, into operation, but I will stop and answer any questions you have. I have data in the report, but I really wanted to highlight that event last night because that's just one small example of the impact we can have on the community when we really work together.
Okay, questions from board members? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have board member comments. Is there a board member that would like to make any comment? Christina? Sure.
Comments and questions. Yes, last night was amazing. I just am always blown away by the staff, CEO, Melchiah, everyone. I think everyone compliments each other so well, and including the voices from those 4 young ladies and those in the community is always so important. So let's remember that every time we host an event, because like you said, it's inspirational, and that's where it comes from, right? And then, yeah, thank you for the story shared tonight. That was great, all the information. And then my question is, what day are we taking the photos, Sheila, that we just signed up for?
June 21st.
June 21st.
It's right at the board meeting, right before the board meeting. It starts at 4:30.
Thank you.
Ms. Sarah? Any comment?
I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation earlier. It was really great.
Dr. Hans?
Wow, what a meeting today. Every presentation was so inspiring, especially the stories that inspire. All I can say is, wow, you not only support your peers, people who have challenges with mental health, but people like us who are in the periphery, and everyone, I am sure, is touched by someone in their immediate circle struggling with those challenges. So thank you for that. And thank you, Dana, for your efforts and your team's effort to reach to the community. All I can say is I'm amazed how far we have come in the last year and a half. So thank you for that.
Ms. Newman? Okay.
I just want to thank the board for being receptive. The program means a lot to me. It's like my baby. And what I didn't say is that we're going through a rebranding, so the next time we come back, we'll have a different name, and hopefully George and Lynette will be ready to present by then. But I appreciate so much the support that OCHN has given us. I thank the board for approving our contract to be able to do what we do. And I also want to especially thank Christine and Vicki for working with us down through the years and supporting us in our efforts. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Adam? Mr. Berman? Yvette?
Nothing additional.
Okay. Dennis?
First of all, I wanted to thank the chair for recognizing Eric. I think that was a very generous thing to do. Malkiah, I've been on a number of boards. I have never experienced at a meeting the range of musical genres that you covered. And from someone who has an admitted poor church voice, I admire that. Thank you.
John?
Just to go along that theme, thank you for the gift bag, and that was truly one of the best presentations I've seen in any board meeting, so appreciate your energy and effort.
Rena?
Are you tired of hearing us thanking you yet? Thank you, Malkiah, and to Andrew and Cheryl for your presentations. It's always really just wonderful to hear you speak and sing. And the work that the anti-stigma team does is just so important. Anti-stigma is one of the main reasons why I wanted to join this board in the first place. So to hear all of the wonderful work that you do, and the fact that you are rebranding and doing even more, I'm really excited to hear about where that goes. So thank you, everyone.
Okay. I have a couple of comments. One, do read through Dana's report. I can tell you the expanded stats that are in here tell a story that the public needs to know about. As part of your story about advocacy and about the value we provide, not just funding our direct providers, but also those that ourselves in the, that work with the providers. I was approached twice over this last month. One was on autism, one was on substance use. So I see the numbers now. One thing I learned tonight was our autism program doesn't go to 18, it goes to 21. I did not know that. So thank you. Just looking at the numbers helped me understand that. And that our substance use, while I know it's still a problem, we actually had a good month. The stats decreased. That's really nice to hear once in a while. Thanks to those who serve and help others. Really appreciate it. It's a hard job for you guys. Pandemic's not over, but it's still a hard job. It always was. So thank you. And tonight's crew, the peer support specialists, certified support peer support specialists. And I don't want to say your entourage because you would say, nope, you're just part of them. So it was really nice to see the 4 of them, the 5 of you. So, and then 2 other things. Although he didn't say anything and he's pretty modest, this past week the county commissioners recognized our own board member, Dennis Cowan. So congratulations. I don't know what it was for, but congratulations just the same.
I'm not sure either, but it was not awarded posthumously, and I thank them for that.
And you would not be able to if it was. And then a speedy recovery to our other board member, Dr. Steve Taub, who's out. So, and that's all of my comments. And with our agenda exhausted now, I'll take us into adjournment. Until next time.
Like 7:20.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to ask for a motion that we adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Cowan. Is there a second?
Second, Adam?
Thank you, Adam. Is there any discussion? Let's have a lot of discussion to keep this going. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? No. We are now in adjourned.